you explain like what it is that concerns you about UBI? Like what's the counter to that? Because obviously it's something that I think most people would support in a case of an emergency. Like that's something that we should all be getting since COVID started,
Yep.
Or at least subsidizing our payrolls, something like that, an emergency. But what is your general issue with UBI? Because I remember it's extremely reasonable.
It is. But I want to take a second to say the emergency payments and retroactive payments that should have been going on during this pandemic are not a UBI. I want to be crystal clear. They're emergency payments, and there's a difference. And I want to be sure, because I know what Tom's looking to do. And while I don't agree with him, okay, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that they're the two that are the same. They're not. But I fully support retroactive payments that should have been going on during that pandemic to get us out of that debt that people incurred through that. No. But the problem I have is going back to Milton Friedman, the Mount Pelerin Society. The libertarian side of the world has sought long and hard to dismantle the social safety net, the New Deal, for as long as we can remember. And this really was a stronghold of Milton Friedman. And so there are many, many people, not in our little echo chamber, our little left-wing echo chamber where everything is hunky-dory and roses, but outside of our bubble, people genuinely have been looking to tear apart the social safety net. And they would love to throw cash at you and say, now go be all you can be, baby. Go find healthcare, go find all these things. And most people lack power. They lack agency to be able to make those kind of decisions. The people we're talking about, the poor, they genuinely, many of them are uneducated. Many of them have no family. They don't know what to do. So the idea of providing just cash, I think, while leaving the structural inequality there, fundamentally is status quo. It doesn't actually do what we think it's going to do. But to Peter's point, I fully agree with pandemic relief support should have been done and should be done today, retroactively back to the beginning, up to present, and until we're completely out of it. So that's my angle.
Okay. One thing that I do want to interject with that, which I think is important, and this is a defense of UBI. I think that the other thing that has to be considered, and we obviously talk about a federal jobs guarantee, and that could be a litany of different things. I don't think and maybe this is more on the capitalist side, because I know a lot of people have, there's a lot of people these days leaning towards socialism. But the one thing that I do think is important to remember is that if you're an entrepreneur and you have an idea and things that you want to see come to fruition, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business owner. I do think it's important to recognize that there is a lot to offer in terms of the economic makeup. Now, while some people, may be better suited to, let's say, do a federal job that could be, covered by a union, for example, there's obviously a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built in this country. We're decades behind other parts of the world, but there's also a lot of creative minds that would probably be much better suited with having, some people equate UBI essentially being a social security for all. And I'm fine with that. But that is something that I don't think we emphasize enough. The entrepreneurial spirit, I think, is still an essential part of our society and of our economy. And Tommy, if you'd like to take it first, and then Steve, by all means, jump in right after.
Yeah, I mean, I should be transparent here. I know this audience is not a huge bastion of libertarianism, so I could sense that in the chat. But I do personally fundamentally believe that individuals should be free to make as many decisions for themselves as possible, and that many individuals are budding entrepreneurs. And they don't all need to start like the next Tesla. They could be a local entrepreneur, a small business. They could, provide a service to their community. And having a basic income is kind of like, the country investing in you, in your business. And if that allows you to start a tutoring business, or start a landscaping business, or to pursue, open a small bakery, whatever it is, like that's awesome. But, it's hard to predict centrally, like what those businesses need to be. And so I guess I do believe that when people can compete and they can kind of find what the market wants, that it can be a win-win.
Steve?
Well, clearly, I come from a different perspective. I was a former Ron Paul guy. I full on used to be a libertarian, and my history, you can look in my profile pictures and see the progression. But I'm not a big fan of markets, because markets are created by government typically. And when you think about the laws and by which all markets are governed, you realize how markets have failed us. However, I want to say this. The job guarantee, federally funded because it's the currency issue, or locally administered because we all want to be part of our local community, kill our carbon footprint, become active within our space. Someone like what Tom said, an entrepreneur, these are opportunities where people could be a part of a job guarantee program where they could teach some of their skills and share things with others, network with each other, become social beings, while simultaneously receiving significantly more money than a UBI, where a job guarantee, let's say it provides a socially inclusive wage of $15 an hour, plus a full range of federal benefits, from healthcare to, college to, all kinds of other things, anything, support in general to help them facilitate their next moves. This is what we're talking about. It's a framework for a much more robust society. And while I'm certainly not an individualist and I'm not an objectivist, I left Ayn Rand alone a few years back. I still think that it's very important to understand that everybody has their own unique situation. Okay. So this is what is beautiful about the job guarantee in the sense that people can have a different idea, different arts and crafts, musicians, et cetera. Bill Mitchell, who is one of the originators of this, talks about surfers in the job guarantee, and they would collect water samples maybe while they're surfing, or teach water safety courses to the local community as part of their surfing job. I mean, so there's a great way of taking this and just kind of reimagine something different. We're not talking about unions, because the government can afford great jobs. It doesn't have to just be the low wage, but the job guarantee is not intended to be that. The job guarantee is setting a base wage.
Right.
That's a great segue, because one of the big issues of our time that a lot of people like to talk about is raising the minimum wage. There's a cost benefit analysis to that, obviously, depending on where in the country you live. Tom, you live in one of the most, cost of living areas in the United States. Steve, you live in Pennsylvania. Obviously, the cost of living is significantly different between the two areas. A lot of people have harped on the idea that a $15 minimum wage, this is what we need to have. Not that I'm against that. I'm certainly in favor of raising the minimum wage, but I think a living wage is much more essential, because cost of living is different depending on where you are. There's different types of jobs that are needed in different places. How do you guys feel about a living wage?
I'm all for it.
Tom?
I think it's great, especially if you have a basic income underneath that. But I would say that, setting a fixed minimum wage, to your point, nationally has some difficulties in terms of efficiency, in that, $15 an hour in one place may not go as far as in another. But ultimately, I do feel like there is going to be a problem where many jobs will be performed by technology. And as the wages go up, it will be a greater incentive for businesses to not hire people. And you can see this, like some McDonald's, like there's like nobody working there anymore. It's just like
I'll use an even better example. One of my favorite places to shop in by far is Costco, and even that's a place where, Steve, you're seeing it now. I prefer the express line. I prefer to just ring it up myself, and that's nothing against somebody who's working at a register. It's more or less a natural progression, if you will, in many respects. And I do think that is something that we can't ignore. I mean, I saw a video, I think it was on CNBC, that showed that there's a White Castle that literally now has a robot that basically can lift the burgers and the fries. I mean, it's kind of, it's amazing how far we've come. And so on the one hand, I think defining what the federal jobs guarantee looks like in terms of how broad of a reach is that going to be? Like, is that going to be all jobs? Is that going to be manufacturing jobs? Is it obviously dealing, like I said, with the infrastructure. In terms of technology, we're so far behind, but we are seeing it in real time, how the benefit of UBI is very real, because there is this massive amount of outsourcing that is happening. There's massive amounts of automation that is becoming a part of it.
You're breaking up, man.
Yep. Yeah, he is.
Here we go again.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to switch to audio. Hang on one sec.
I don't know why it does that.
Well, let me take a crack at
All right,
this.
coming back.
When you think about automation, it should benefit all of society, right? So rather than just having a few people on a UBI, why not look at reducing the work week for all? Why not look for socializing those benefits across the country? That's first. Second of all, I know for a fact that the wagon wheel maker still resents the steel radial. And I know that damn Abacus hates the calculator. And I'm sure the calculator really hates the Apple. And I'm sure the Apple really hates the Mac. So each one of these things throughout history has displaced others. We're in a service economy now. We have stopped caring for each other. And all you got to do is look out your window. All you got to do is go down your street. And you will see tons of things that the capitalists didn't find to be profitable to do. Lots of work, lots of things that are important for your local community. I mean, kids are not even able to play sports now because they can't afford to buy the pads. We can do so much, so much. Our imaginations are trapped in austerity, trapped in this fake belief that the government is broke and can't do great things. And until we eradicate that mindset, we're always going to be having diminished expectations and diminished dreams. So, from my standpoint, John Yarmouth, who's the head of the budget committee, came out the other day and just said, hey, guys, we can afford it all. We are the currency creator. And I think that that's an important step in making these bold changes. I wouldn't be so worried about McDonald's. Let's go ahead and find better jobs, more caring jobs in the local communities, and start, reviving culture again, start reviving the soul of the community. Let's build bridges. Let's start really connecting with one another again. I think it's important.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.